Hello everyone, welcome to Davi-tech-media, the media that shares news, trending videos, political news, gospel music as well as entertainment. Please, if you are joining me for the first time, don't forget to click that subscription button and that notification bell to be the very first person to receive the video that will be posted and produced by Davi-tech-media. Remember, Davi-tech-media, updating you.
There's something I'd really like to talk to you about that's really, really important. Let me begin by saying there's a difference, because you know these are things that I have to explain to you in very, very simple terms. You know, when you're dealing with the Zambian public, you have to be very, very clear on what you're saying. You have to be very rudimentary. And it's a daunting task sometimes, because you forget that you're dealing with an electorate, you're dealing with a group of people, you're dealing with a huge number of people. The vast majority of our people, unfortunately, are not that jacked up. So you really have to, not all of you, some of you, let me change that, most of you are not that jacked up. So consequently, when we step on social media, I don't mean to insult you, I'm just telling you the truth. You love the truth, don't you? No, he tells us the truth. Well, I'm telling you the truth. That's the truth. The vast majority of our population is not really that jacked up. So you really have to explain things on a very rudimentary level. So let me begin by saying there's a difference between surveillance and following. Because many of you will jump on here and say, but you, Mwewa, you are also following Andrew. You are following him. No, that's not true. There's a difference between surveillance and following. Let me explain the difference. Surveillance means observing. Let's say, for instance, you are a criminal, okay? And the police have identified you as a person of interest. Do you know what the police are going to do? They're going to set up surveillance points around your house. They'll follow you. They'll want to know where you go, who you hang out with, what type of transactions you carry out. They are carrying out a form of surveillance on you. It doesn't mean that they're following you in the sense that, you know, they agree with you, because here's the thing, guys. Following means walking in agreement with someone. This is the reason Jesus said in Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Become like me. Jesus Christ bore Christianity. The word Christian means Christ-like. So I follow Christ. The Apostle Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. So there's a difference between surveillance and following. I have to explain that. Because if I don't explain that, all the comments are going to be, oh, which means, well, you're also following him. Last night you're watching him, which means you're following. Yeah, so I have to give you that context, because already, without even looking at the comments, I can tell you right now, there are people saying that right now, because our people, the vast majority of our people, unfortunately, are Dwanzi. So you have to explain this. If you don't explain it, if you leave it to chance, if you assume that no, they know what this is, or you've made the wrong decision. You have to explain it, unfortunately. And only a fellow Zambian can tell you that. If a foreigner steps up here and says what I'm saying to you, you'll get very upset. Except when it's Andrew. Andrew can insult you guys and you guys will just embrace him. Oh, you're telling us the truth. All right. That means you're crazy, Andrew, because you complain when people speak about you in Bemba. So I'll translate everything I'll say about you today. I will translate. Now, guys, let me also say here that in order to understand Andrew, you have to go back to the beginning. And some of you may ask, what is the beginning? I'll sort of condense it for you. Here's the deal. many of you know that Andrew, the man that you call Seer 1, the man that you call Seer 1 is actually, his name is Andrew. He's a Nigerian national. He came to Zambia because he saw and he realized that Zambian soil, in as far as our people are concerned, was very fertile, in the sense that it's very easy to manipulate the Zambian public. It's very easy to hoodwink the average Zambian. The average Zambian is a simpleton. The average Zambian doesn't walk around with a lot of analytical skills. Everything to the average Zambian is bare. It's what they see in front of them. It's what we see and what we interpret as truth, and we just embrace it. Kaufela, everything. Just bring everything down the pike. So Andrew saw and he noticed that so he set up camp here and he began to manipulate our people. And then what he did, and this is indicative of all con men, of all cult leaders, people that call themselves men of God, but really underneath that thin veneer is a demonic, demon-possessed sexual deviant that does nothing but take, steal, kill, and destroy. Follow me. We've got a long way to go. And so when Andrew realized that this Zambia was so fertile because its people are so dwanzi, he sets camp up here. Now, the thing that happened was that when he started building his church here, which really was a center of demonic activity, really is what it was. Okay, there's nothing that resembles a church when it comes to Andrew. Everything is demonic. Everything is steeped and dipped and immersed in the occult and witchcraft. That's what it is. And it has a very thin veneer of theology. But what started happening was that he began to infiltrate the power structure of our country. He began to become very close with government officials, people in the council, people in the police department. All of this was done in order to protect himself from what was to come. Then a lot of complaints started going to the police about sexual assault, sexual deviance, the molestation of little children, little girls, 13, 14 years old. All these complaints started going to the police, but they would always fall on deaf ears because Andrew, at that time, he had infiltrated the power structure so much so that there was a level of protectionism. There was a hedge of protection around him. Follow me. We got a long way to go. And so every time someone would go to the police to complain that this man that calls himself Seer 1, this man, this Nigerian con man, this Nigerian cult leader has molested my little girl. He has sexually assaulted my child, and I need you to help me. He was protected. The system protected him. Until one day, this is a true story. I'm not making any of this up. I'm a Zambian. You should listen to me, okay? This information landed on Eagle One's desk. And you had a cluster, a handful of people around Eagle One that said to him, Mr. President, this guy's dangerous. This guy is lethal. If we allow this guy to live here, we're going to have a problem. So guess what happened? They had him arrested, and then they sent him out of the country. They deported him back to his country, Nigeria. He didn't like that very much. Now, some of you may ask the question, well, why did they deport him? Why? Because this is something that he constantly says this. He constantly talks about this. He says, he'll come on his broadcast and say, well, if I really committed, now forgive me, I don't have a very good Nigerian accent, okay, so just bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can. But Andrew constantly brings this up. He says, if I really committed this crime, why didn't they arrest me? Why didn't they throw me in jail? The reason is simple. The authorities deduced. They looked at his profile, and they deduced correctly so, and rightly so. They said, if this type of person is allowed to function in our prison system, he's so devious, he's so malignant, that he will destabilize even our prison service. So it's better to eject him. There are people like that, especially when you're a foreigner. Sometimes it's not in the country's interest to hold you in our prison system, especially when you're a destabilizing factor. Sometimes it's easier to eject you and bar you from having any physical contact with our people. And so they ejected him. Now, the unfortunate thing is that Andrew has used social media to still infiltrate the Zambian psyche. He has. And he's done it in a way that has tapped into your frustration. He knows that we're living in a time, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that economically this country is in trouble. We've got issues, okay? We have issues. So what he does is that he taps into your frustration for his personal gain. Now, here's the thing, guys, and I constantly say this, you must know this. Andrew's end game, when everything is said and done, when the dust settles and when the dew dries, Andrew's end game is to siphon and to extort money from you. That's his whole end game. It's got nothing to do with speaking for you as the Zambian. What, a Nigerian is going to come here and speak for you? Okay, why don't you go and speak for the Nigerians? You try that. Let's see how that turns out for you. Try that today. Try. You as a Zambian, stand up for the Nigerian people. They will look at you like a calf looking at a new gate. They will look at you and say, Negro. Nobody got time for that. But you Zambians, umunai aisakuno mwamukumbata. Oh, Andrew, by the way, that means we embrace you. Okay, just so that you know. Mwamukumbata. Yo, muntu esuyu aletwe chika. Now, here's the thing, guys, and you must know this. And again, I have to say, I have to explain everything to you. I have to explain it to you like you're a 3-year-old, because if I don't, you simply won't get it. Here's the thing. You have to understand that when Andrew does his broadcast, he always mentions his WhatsApp number. Always. Why? Because he's setting you up. He's going to tell you a bunch of stuff. And he's setting you up so that ultimately you give him a call. You tell him what your problem is. He feigns solution, meaning he pretends to give you a solution at a price. And if you notice last night, he says, I'm going to assess you when you write to me. And he's very clever in the sense that he wants to cut through the woodwork. He wants to cut through the riffraff. He has no time, he says, for me. Don't tell me my skin is beautiful. Don't say hi. Don't talk to me about inconsequential things. Just get to the point. The reason he tells you get to the point is he wants you to tell him what your problem is so that he can charge you and so that you can send him the money. It's all about the money, honey. It's all about the green. He gets mean when you mess with his green. It's all about the money. It's all about the boudin. Umuzulu, chapa, I'm off. That's all it's about. It's trust me, it's got nothing to do with the love of country. And here's the thing, guys. This I see this so clearly. It's unbelievable that some of you don't see it. Guys, do you know what a jagaban is? Do you know? Some of you use this word jagaban. You don't even know what it is. Mupundafye. Jagaban. But a jagaban is someone that tells you what you already know. And then you stand in awe of that. Let that sink in for a moment, because I know some of you, some of you didn't catch that, but I've got to say it again. I got to explain it to you like you 3-year-olds. Let me say it again, and then I'll break it down for you. A jagaban is someone that explains something to you that you already know, and then he makes you stand in awe of it. In other words, akweba iwapa. Akweba chintacho wishibe kale. Ede wa papa. It's amazing. It's the most amazing thing. We already know the economy's whack. What, Andrew's going to tell you that? And then you, oh, but he's telling us the truth. But we already know that. Now, guys, here's the deal. And I want you to get this. This is how Andrew tricks you. It's a trick. This is what amateur magicians do. You remember a few years ago, Andrew, it was on YouTube. This was back when he wasn't as known or as famous as he is today. This was back when he was just a guy, you know. He still is just a guy. He just pretends to be what he's not. Andrew's not rich. He has no money. The little money he has, he gets from you. He has broken phones. He sits in little cars, the cars that probably don't even belong to him. You know, when he comes to you from his little flat, it's a little apartment. You know, it's nothing grand. When he takes beautiful, grand photographs, he probably goes to some lodge or some big estate and he asks them, he says, can I sit in that corner over there with the big mirror in the back, a nice portrait, and nice chairs, and let me take a photograph, let me take a selfie. Post! Oh, Jagaban, look at the way he lives. Kanshiwala, skelam fieka. Anyway, let me not digress. This is the trick. Andrew has a trick up his sleeve. And I'm going to teach it to you. This trick here is called obfuscation. Obfuscation. The act of mixing a little truth with a lot of lies. Look it up. It's an actual word. Con people do this. Con men do this. Shysters. You know what a shyster is? A shyster or crook. I'm a con man. They do this a lot. What they do is that they take a little tiny truth so that they hook you, and then they add a big lie to that truth so that you're not able to tell the difference between truth and lies. Con men do this, and Andrew does this. For example, last night, he comes to you, he shows you a message from Mr. Chishimba Kambwili that says, don't forget, this is Kambwili writing to Andrew, this was back in 2020, don't forget to preempt these crooks, talking about the Patriotic Front. Okay, this was at a time when Mr. Chishimba Kambwili was not with the Patriotic Front. He was no longer with them. He was fighting them. And he goes back to that old adage, the enemy of your enemy is my friend. Do you know that phrase? The enemy of your enemy is my friend? And Chishimba Kambwili tapped into that because he saw an ally in Andrew because they were fighting, they had a common enemy at the time. Of course, things have changed now because Kambwili is now back with the Patriotic Front. But back in 2020, when he sent that message to Andrew, he was against the Patriotic Front. And so Kambwili and Andrew were allies. And so yes, Kambwili did send a message to Andrew saying, don't forget to preempt these crooks. Now, what Andrew's done now is that he took a little truth. That part of it is true. And then he brings a big lie and he attaches it to the little truth. And then he begins to weave a story. And he starts to tell you about Mr. Kambwili's physiological challenges. And you believe it. You believe it. Guys, let me tell you, and hear me when I tell you this. Andrew has no power. You must know this. The only power he has over you is your silence. That's it. That's the reason he emphasizes, don't respond to me. Because I've got to eat, I've got things I can reveal about you. The only power he has is the power of your silence. As long as you don't speak to him. And I see it in the comments. Many of you tell me, Mwewa, don't respond to him. Don't say anything. That's the power he has over you. Not over me, honey. I know in whom I have believed. And I'm persuaded that he's able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. Don't mess with me. I stand on the authority of the word of God. I don't listen to fools and jagabans like Andrew. Who is Andrew? But some of you tremble underneath the rattle of his voice. Oh, Andrew. Andrew's just a guy. He's just a con artist. He's an amateur magician. You remember years ago, he had a little church over there in South Africa, and he used to vomit money. Vomit. He'd play this little amateur trick. My 4-year-old nephew can pull that trick where you pretend to vomit money, and you Zambians, oh, you believe it. So dwanzy. And he taps into that. Andrew plants fear in your heart. A couple of years ago, he claimed, because everything is about claiming. He substantiates very little, but he claims very much. Ooh, that's good. That's a good one. Ooh, God just dropped that in my heart. Let me say that again. Andrew substantiates very, very little. He'll show you a little message from Wachishimba Kambwili. Don't forget to preempt these crooks. A little message. And then he claims a lot. He'll say the ailment, the physical ailment that Wachishimba Kambwili is experiencing is because of his power. Is because Andrew cursed Wachishimba Kambwili. Nonsense, hogwash, bull, roar. Andrew has no power to do that. Andrew doesn't have the power to deviate, to make an ant deviate from its path, much less acknowledge him. Andrew just talks. He talks a big game, but he substantiates very little. So here it is. A while ago, he used to vomit money, which was ridiculous. Nobody can do those. You know what they call that in magic? Guys, and you must know this. Again, I have to explain this to you because most of our Zambian people, unfortunately, are Dwanzi. You have to know this. You do know that magic is not real, right? Do you know this? You know, when someone takes cards, magic tricks, and he says, pick a card, and then he makes it disappear, or he takes an egg and makes it disappear. You know, all of that is not real. You do know that, do you not? There's a word for it. It's called the sleight of hand. It's a trick. The magician's job is to make you see what you can't see. It's a trick. It's to entertain you. Now, there are levels of magicians. There are magicians like David Copperfield was an amazing magician. You know, he would do amazing tricks. And then there are amateur magicians like Andrew, who pretend to vomit money and make huge claims. After he did that little thing, he came on social media, and many of you believed it. And I must apologize for mentioning this, but I have to say it. And I know it's heart-wrenching for my dear brother to hear this. If he's hearing this, my sincere apologies, my brother, but I really have to say this to make a point. I love you in my heart. I love you so much. But I have to say this. My brother, Karisto Chitamfia, his son tragically died in an accident. What did Andrew do? He claimed he killed him to plant fear in you Dwanzi Zambians who believe everything and anything. That's what he does. So he makes a grand claim. I killed. This is what he said. He said he killed Karisto Chitamfia's son because he didn't follow the rules. He did all of that to plant fear in you. He didn't do that. It was an accident. It was an accident. Don't allow Andrew to hold you captive in your silence. Because that's his MO. That's what he does. He said it last night. He even mentioned, I won't mention her name, but you know who he talked about. He said, I was testing her. Had she responded, I was going to. So he does that so that the lady in question doesn't say anything. That's the power. That's the only power Andrew has, is your silence. Your silence. He has no intrinsic power. Yesterday he was told me, I'm going to the desert of wonders. Negro, please. You ain't going nowhere. As soon as he finished his live, he probably went to McDonald's or KFC and bought a little packet for 36 Rand and then waited for your money, your hard-earned money, for you to send him the money. That's how he makes his living. He comes back. And there you are. Dwanzi, Zambians, and yesterday he says, I bet Simon's gonna talk about me. And then you guys, this morning when I posted, I'm gonna go live at 11. You guys, oh, his prophecy came true. Dwanzi. It's not a prophecy. It's common sense. Because he knows I'm gonna do that. It's common sense. It's common sense. So why would that be a prophecy? You see, here's the thing, guys. Some of you, you're so spiritually dense, you don't even know what the hell's going on. Some of you know what's happening, but you don't know what's going on. That's how dense you are. I don't mean to insult you, but hey, Andrew insults you every day, and you embrace it. Yesterday, Andrew said, in all of Zambia, there's no such thing as there's no real Christian there. The whole of this country? Oh, really? Who made you God? How do you know that? Yeah, there are elements. Every country in the world has false prophets, including you, Andrew. But that's not to say that Zambia doesn't have real, true Christians that stand on the word of God, that throw themselves at the foot of the cross and seek the face of God until heaven opens. We got people like that. We got good people who want to follow and who yearn for the truth of who God is. And then we've got people that are fake, like you, Andrew. So, bottom line. Everything he said last night was so disrespectful. And you guys believe it. When someone, you know what he does? And it's very simple. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It's like, for example, it's like me. Let me give you an example. Let me use me as an example because, I really didn't like the reference that he made to Vachishimba Kambwili. Kambwili's got his own misgivings. He's got his own shortcomings, but I do not condone anyone talking about Kambwili in the way that Andrew talked about him. And you Zambians, Mwewa kwa tentambi na mule post if my pictures if ya buba mule kakonka ka Andrew. When deep down inside in your heart you know if ya de land if defitwa ba ifo tentambi shesi if to kwa tentambi tura chindika ba kalamba ifo entambi twa kwa taifwe Fue Bantu, fue Bena Zambia, whether you're Tonga, Lozi, whatever. Kwata, we've got our own tradition. And our tradition is not speaking about our elders' physical ailments, especially in that way. No musalula. Na mumweba iche mule post if my pictures if ya bupuba. Mule seka no kuseka. You're throwing up laughing emojis. What is wrong with you? Ili ongatwalanda kotwarufianya. Baunza kulia batuka balifulensele mukanwa nga twalanda baunza tyo baunza mwilalande fyo twalufyanya na tukwate ntambi. Unza didn't apologize. So here's the thing. I gave you 24 hours to apologize, but you didn't. So here's the thing. All of you that were mocking Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, your children, your offspring, your seed will be failures. And they will insult you. And they will call you foolish. Your own children will insult you. Now, that's not a prophecy, just so you know. That's common. It's a law. It's a law. It's like the law of gravity. I'm on the second floor of Simoson building. There's a window right in front of me. If I open this window and I jump out, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to fall. I'll break my leg. Is it a prophecy? No, it's the law of gravity. The law of reaping and sowing. The word of God says, whatsoever a man sows, he shall also reap. So use UNZA students. I gave you 24 hours. I was giving you a way out. You didn't take it. So here's the thing. All of you that mocked Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, your children will be failures and they will insult you. That's not a curse. It's the law of reaping and sowing. You sowed mockery. You'll get mockery. Boom! Finished. End of story. Okay. That's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you for listening. I've been speaking for 42 minutes. 42 minutes! Goodness. Crazy. Guys, this is the last thing I want to tell you. We are in an election year. Andrew makes a lot of claims, but let me address one specific one. Andrew doesn't have power to influence an election. If indeed there is regime change this year on August the 12th, 2021, it will be because the people of Zambia have decided. We, you and I. Where's my voter's card? Oh, I have it here somewhere. Here it is. See this here? If indeed there will be a regime change, if there will be a change of government, if indeed the Patriotic Front are voted out and the United Party for National Development are voted in, it will not be because of some superstitious amateur magician that calls himself Seer 1, aka Blind One, aka Andrew, it won't be because of that. It'll be because you and I stand in line and we voted. That's the only way. All those grand claims Andrew makes, no, I've got the power, I influence 90s, that's nonsense. He's blowing hot air. And here's the thing, guys, if indeed the UPND do win, and let's face it, that's possible, democracies usually do that. That tends to happen sometimes. When you have a democratic system, when you have a country that is not a totalitarian state, oftentimes when there is an election, what usually happens sometimes is there's a change of government. So it's possible. So our democratic system was here long before Andrew showed up. So forget him. But if it does happen that UPND wins, you know what Andrew's going to say to you, especially you Zambians, Mwewa shipula Mwewa Dwanzi. You will accredit it to him. You'll give him the credit. You'll say, "Oh, chinariranda, oh Andradilanda, tapanomba UPND wina." And yet, it was you. You did it. You that are registered to vote. You did it. When President Lungu won, it had nothing to do with Andrew. President Lungu won because you and I voted for him. Where the hell was Andrew? Nowhere. Okay? And let me just also add here. Let me add that his end game, he thinks in his mind, he thinks that if the UPND wins, he'll come back to Zambia. He says it. He says, I have no interests of coming to Zambia. I don't even want to come there. But the truth is, that's his end game. That's what he wants. That's all he wants. Why? Because in Zambia, he found fertile soil. He saw that the average Zambian, Ali Shipula, and there is where I will make my kingdom. He wants to come back here. Kuriaku South Africa, ale chula. Nga phone ile tulanga maido. Ama cracks all over. Phone ya tobeka. Impia nga shapwa abwela ku screen. I've got a way there. So he depends on you. And unfortunately, if Andrew were to come back to Zambia and announce by Facebook page yakwe that on such a dating case ku Zambia, please come to the airport to welcome me. Umwina Zambia if ya shipula kuti afuma na kunchito ati ngamulefu antamfye ni nchito ine na ku airport ine mupokera Andrew. Iwe uyifuma pa nchito na la kutamfya ntamfye ni na mkubo Andrew. That's how Dwanzi you are. But thankfully, that's not going to happen. If HH wins, Andrew is never coming here. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Andrew. It's not going to happen. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless you, precious people. Love you. For those of you that are not Dwanzi. For those of you that are Dwanzi, I'm praying for you. Get over it. Get some sense into your mind. Get some sense in here. Okay? Throw yourself at the foot of the cross. Okay? Allow God to open your eyes, to remove those scales on your eyes. That element of worshiping Andrew. Crazy. All right, gotta go. Bye. Peace.
Thank you very much for tuning in at Davi-tech-media. Remember, Davi-tech-media is the media that shares news, trending videos, political news, gospel music, as well as entertainment. Please don't forget to click that subscription button and that notification bell to be the very first person to receive the video that will be produced and posted by Davi-tech-media. Davi-tech-media, updating you.
To Davi-tech-media. Davi-tech-media. Subscribe to Davi-tech-media.